Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold is one of the most famous traders of all time. You might have heard people say that man was a Benedict Arnold. What they mean when they say that is that that person was a traitor. Although he was a traitor, Benedict Arnold was also an incredible war hero. When he was fighting for the right side, that is. Arnold was born in Connecticut in 1741. He left home to go to school when he was a teenager. Arnold's family fell on hard times shortly after he left. He was forced to return home and work for an apothecary. An apothecary is a person who prepares and sells medicine, kind of like a pharmacist. Later, he enlisted in the army and fought during the French and Indian War. After the war ended, he worked as a pharmacist and also sold books. After the British passed the Sugar and Stamp Act, Arnold joined the Sons of Liberty. This group of men met in secret to talk about revolutionary ideas. They met in secret so that the British wouldn't know about it. Arnold was an important man to the revolutionary cause. He became involved in the revolutionary movement very early on and remained involved through the beginning of the Revolutionary War. He was a captain in the army and fought in many battles. Arnold was a successful leader who led the colonists in important battles in Ticonderoga, New York, and Quebec, Canada. With the help of Ethan Allen, Arnold led his troops to victory at Ticonderoga. This was one of the first and most important colonial victories during the war. The colonists lost the battle in Quebec, but Arnold was still promoted for his efforts. Things began to go south in 1776. Benedict had earned a reputation for his anger and impatience. This earned him lots of enemies. He was accused of having poor behavior and not following the mission's orders correctly. In 1777, Congress promoted 5 other lower-ranking generals to positions above Benedict. This infuriated Arnold. He was so mad that he left the army that year. President Washington, who was the leader of the Continental Army, begged him to return, but Arnold did, returning just in time to help the American troops win several major battles. This led Congress to promote him above the same 5 generals that were given position above Benedict in 1777. Arnold had been injured during several of the battles, so he worked in Philadelphia while he recovered. He ended up socializing with a number of rich Loyalist or British supporters during this time. He also met and married a young Loyalist woman named Peggy. Arnold continued to make poor decisions on the battlefield when he returned to his newly promoted position. He often abused his power and took advantage of being in charge of other soldiers. Congress asked George Washington to punish Arnold, so he did. Benedict was upset by this punishment, and it wasn't long before he began to run some financial troubles. So he began selling secret American military information to the British. Benedict used his wife Peggy to pass letters with secret information to British Major John Andre. Arnold shared lots of military details with Andre. In 1780, Benedict sold his biggest secret yet for 20,000 pounds. Pounds are the British money, similar to the American dollar. He planned to weaken West Point, an American military base, by sending American troops away from the base. This would allow the British to take over West Point. However, Major Andre was caught by the Americans just before the British attack at West Point was supposed to take place. This wasn't long before Andre revealed Arnold's lies. Andre was hanged, but Arnold escaped. Benedict spent the rest of the war wearing a British uniform and fighting against the Americans. He moved to London after the war and spent the rest of his life there. Benedict Arnold was both an American war hero, helping the colonists win several major battles, and an infamous traitor. People often focus on his dishonesty rather than his war contributions. His name will forever be synonymous, meaning the same thing, with traitor.